Hello and welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I am James Lott Jr. and I'm going to get in between someone that I have been a fan of for at least 11, 12 years. I first noticed him from his film Aaron, Albeit a Sex Hero, which was back in 2009. That was a long time ago. I can't believe that. Also, Falling Follow, and that was another movie. I have those movies here in the house somewhere. I couldn't find them. I'm cleaning out my house right now. I can't find them, but I have them on DVD. He has the latest film called Crossing Shaky Ground, which is a trip, folks. We're going to talk about this movie. It is a trip. But I loved it. And he's just somebody that I admire so much who's out there trying to make things happen, you know, in the independent film world. My friend, Paul Bright. Hi, Paul.
Hey, James. It's great to finally talk to you.
Same here. Best beard in the business. I love the beard. Love it. Always love it.
Thank you. I've been working on it for years. You know.
I know you have.
Yeah.
I like the gray. Keep the gray in there. I got gray too. Keep it in there.
Yeah, see, I've colored it gray. Normally, it would actually be really jet black. That's the normal coloring. I'm trying to look older.
You look good, though. I get you. You look good.
I thank you.
We're in the same time. We're in the same age group, so it's good. So I'm going to gush on you for a second. So, okay, just sit there and take it. Just sit there and take it, Paul. I'm going to gush. Okay, because this is my show. I can do what I want. So, number one, I really do admire all your work because you are really good. You do interesting work. Because I know you're also an actor and you do other stuff too, but you do interesting work. Years ago, I gave money to one of your projects. Years ago, I gave a little money to one of your projects because you asked, and I was like, sure, it's Paul. Whatever you're going to do is going to be good and interesting. Your movies have layers. They're not just like even when you say, albeit, Aaron, Albeit a Sex Hero, you go, what? Like, what? And you see the film, and there's just so many. There's comedy, and there's scariness, and there's a thriller, and there's action, and there's sex. It's like there's so many layers to your characters and what you do and how you shoot your films that I admire so much. There's a lot of people that I don't like their films. I just don't. I'll be shady. I don't care. I know they do a good job. I know they work hard. I mean, doing your own movie is not always easy. You have budgeting, you have lighting issues, you have casting, you have all these things that go on behind. I'm a content creator, so I understand that. But I've always admired your work, and I always look forward to seeing what comes up next.
Well, Crossing Shaky Ground was completely different from anything else that I put out there, so it probably was not what you were expecting. Or I don't know, maybe it was.
Well, I was expecting it's you. It feels like you.
Yeah.
It feels like something that Paul Bright would put out.
Yeah.
But it was different, and we're going to get to that in a second. But I just want to make sure I say to you on camera, I admire your work, and I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Well, thank you very much, James. That's really wonderful. Thank you.
I mean, so we'll get to Crossing Shaky Ground in a second, because now I have you on here. I kind of just want to go back a little bit, because I mean, when did you first decide I'm not just going to be an actor, I'm not just going to be a person waiting by the phone for things, I'm actually going to create content? Because back then, there were a lot of things that are way different than they are now. I mean, now you got an iPhone, you can make a movie. I mean, now it's a little different. So what was the impetus for you to do that?
Right. So I shot my first film in 2005. It was called Angora Ranch. And at the time that we were making it, we didn't know if anybody would even see this movie. So and I was in Texas. I was living in a tiny town south of Austin, Texas. But Austin was very close. I was commuting in and out. And there was a community of independent filmmakers in Austin. And digital filmmaking was just coming along. We weren't at HD yet. This was before HD, but this was a step right. It was better than video, but it wasn't film.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that film was extremely expensive, but they were coming out with these prosumer cameras that created a better resolution. But the technology didn't talk to each other. So we didn't know how the audio was going to match up with the video. And we didn't, at that time, those cameras couldn't photograph things that had a lot of patterns to it, and it didn't like certain colors and things like that. So for the first two movies, we were extremely careful about all the costuming and about everything in the background and all the props to make sure it wasn't going to be colors that the camera didn't read, or it wasn't going to be ziggy lines so the image wasn't flipping, all the way through.
Yeah.
And so the first project was this wild lark, and I put my own money into it, and I sent it off to over 100 gay film festivals around the world, and no one programmed it. No one. At all. And the thing was that we filmed it before Brokeback Mountain came out.
Okay.
So it was, and I finally got a distributor on it, and it was released right after Brokeback. But before Brokeback Mountain came out, the only times that we saw gays were they were pederasts, they were hustlers, they were drug addicts, their lives always ended in tragedy because they were all dying from AIDS.
Yes.
And that is exactly what all the festivals were programming. They weren't programming anything different. And so I came along with this chirpy little sappy movie about, tender love at first sight kind of stuff on a ranch where they raised bunny rabbits for their wool. And, and this did not fit with what gay distributors wanted.
Oh.
So anyway, so I shopped it around to the large distribution houses, which at that time was TLA, and there were a couple of other big Wolf releasing, and they didn't want it. But one of the people who worked at TLA said, well, there's this one small independent distributor. He's actually the first distributor of gay film in the business. He's been around since the 70s. And so I'm just going to send this movie off to him and we'll see what he thinks. And so that was Waterbury Films. The guy's name was Mike Stimler. He looked at it and he sent me a message to say, well, I will issue a DVD of this, and I think maybe we'll only sell like 300 copies, maybe. But it's a cute little film, and so I'll go ahead and I'll issue it. Well, it turns out that this movie was his second best-selling film he ever released. So when this happened, the people over at TLA were very upset.
I wonder. Mm-hmm.
But not only that, but Mike said to me, okay, I'll release whatever you make. So I had an open invitation. So I turned around and I made Theft of a Drag Queen's Wig. And then behind that was Aaron, Albeit a Sex Hero, the third one. The reason for the title, Aaron, Albeit a Sex Hero, was because at this point, so Aaron was the first time that we shot in high definition. And it was so funny because I noticed in the reviews, very similar cast to previous movies of mine. I'm the same director, writer. Not a whole lot has changed. Same crew. But suddenly with Aaron, people are thinking it's like a better movie, And I'm going, the only difference is the resolution of the picture is just slightly higher.
It made a difference, apparently. Apparently made a difference.
Yeah. And so I'm going, wow, that's amazing. Just that little tweak, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so the deal with Aaron, the reason why it's called Aaron, Albeit a Sex Hero, is because back in those days, we still had DVD stores. We still had Blockbuster.
Yes, we did.
Right? And so I knew that titles that started with like A's and B's would be seen by people because people go down categorically, alphabetically down this.
Smart.
So I was like, okay, let's see. The character's name is going to be Aaron. And what's another A word? Aaron. And I went through the dictionary looking for other A's.
Wow.
So I was like, Aaron, albeit. Okay, great. And then gays like sex. So we're like, so how do I get albeit and sex in this?
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Marketing genius. Marketing.
Yeah, so which is why the next movie behind that was Altitude Falling, and the movie behind that was Abrupt Decision. Yeah. Right. And then by the time I got to the sixth movie, the DVD stores were dying out. So alphabetical didn't matter so much anymore. So I no longer do that.
All right, so okay, go back to the festival things. I want people to understand this. I have friends who are all filmmakers. I know this. So talk about how not easy it is to submit to film festivals, how much work that is.
Oh my gosh, no, it's the easiest thing in the world. Yeah, you just click on a button and then they see it and they're like, yeah, we want to show your movie. Right. So
I want other filmmakers to come and go, well, I want to submit. I'm like, I want you to know it's not just easy. It's not easy work. You have to really,
No, it's really not. So what's happened in our culture is that film festival programmers have developed this mindset that they are the gatekeepers, that they are the curators of culture. And so I've gone off to Berlinale. It's the Berlin European Film Market in Berlin. It happens every February. And I've gone there several times and I've sold movies in the market there. But they have a whole section. The reason why we go to Berlin is because this is where the International Gay Film Festival programmers go to, because there's a whole section of gay films going there. It's like the gay supermarket. So anyway, so the guy who programs the Gay Film Festival section of Berlinale, he stood up on stage once and he says, I'm not going to program popular films. I'm going to program films that I think the audience needs to see.
Okay.
So consequently, that's why we've gone through so many years of these tragic stories that festivals carry. And a lot of these films, they do well on a festival circuit, but they don't do well with audiences because people don't really
No.
want to see them.
No, they don't.
So when I realized this, when I understood that there was a difference between movies that people want to watch and movies that are festival content, I stopped making movies geared toward a festival. I was like, okay, my
Yeah.
movies aren't going to be festival films. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. So that's the deal. The process of getting into the festival is you submit, you pay a fee for your submission, you lose that money, you can't possibly get it back. You're one of maybe 1,000 other films, maybe, depending on the size of the festival, that is submitted. And a lot of the programmers, so I had some involvement with the Austin Gay Lesbian Independent Film Festival early on. I shouldn't say early on because it was around a long time, but back in the 90s. In fact, I even lived for a while in the house of the man who was running the festival as a roommate, just as a roommate.
Roommate.
Well,
Yeah.
But anyway, so oftentimes he would choose movies that had already been selected by higher, more important festivals.
Okay.
And so he was just literally programming stuff that was coming from large festivals, and he was bringing that into his community. And I saw that I saw that actually happening after he left the festival and other people took it over and started it again. There was even a year where they deny it, but they never looked at a single one of the screeners that were submitted because my partner at that time was actually a volunteer in their office, and he saw that all of those screeners remained piled up, never even opened. So I was like, okay, it doesn't matter what they say. I'm recognizing this is the way that things actually fall. It's who you know, and if they know you and they want to program your movie, right?
Yeah, I used to, when I was in San Francisco, I did a lot of community work, and I used to be on boards of things, some gay stuff. And I remember Frame Line was there. We had a whole bunch of stuff, gay lesbian stuff, festivals there. And I remember that I know that a lot of it it's money. It's a business. So like you hope that it would be, you want to find the best gay films that are out there, and no matter who they're by, they'll be just picked and they'll be great. They're trying to find big names. They're trying to find big you said, the subject of the day. If it's all about everybody dies of AIDS at the end, and everybody wants to see that, if they claim, then they go for those. I remember we had a lot of seasons with that's what was being shown all the time. They wanted another long-time companion. They wanted 10 of those at one point. Or they're looking for, so it's like, just like any other business, I guess. It was like I saw this happen at some of these festivals where it was very political. A lot of it was a crapshoot. A lot of it was just like, my cousin knows you, so I guess I'll put you in. Or, you had a great showing in Atlanta, so we'll get you. I mean, like, it's kind of like, yeah. So I've noticed that. So I just want people to know when who say they want to submit to festivals that it could be anything. It's just a lot. Some of it's a business though. They want numbers. Back then they wanted seats. They wanted tickets sold.
So this past week, I went to Cannes online. So it was all online this year.
How was that?
It was fascinating, and I'd never been to Cannes before, but it came available that it was going to be online, and it was only going to be like $100, and I was like, I'm going!
That's not bad. Why not? Yeah, why not?
Right, and so, and the film, my latest film here wasn't yet finished. I was like, okay, I've got a goal. I'm going to have it finished in time. And I called up my old distributor, Mike Stimler from Waterbear, and he has shut down the business, but I was like, Mike, will you be my sales rep? Will you represent this film at Cannes for me? So he agreed. So we were both talking to peoples.
Yeah.
And I was watching all these panels that were on Zoom, and so many of the distributors were talking about they are accustomed to going to a festival in person and listening to the audience react to the movies.
Right.
And there's buzz around what movies are popular and exciting within the festival and what the chatter is and who's talking about what. And with this online virtual festival, none of that exists.
Right.
So these buyers and distributors aren't getting any kind of audience feedback about what movies to buy.
Right. They don't know.
They don't know. So now they're just having to make their own guesses with no input at all.
Interesting.
It will be interesting to see how things fall from them.
Because I agree. So when you go, you always like the audience cheer at the end or standing over. Like you don't have that. That's all gone. So
right.
Yeah. I mean,
and we could watch the movie. So I watched a couple of movies, not very many, but I watched a few movies, and it's just like streaming a movie online. I mean, you're just watching it on a computer. So Nobody knows if you liked it or hated it or nothing. Yeah.
What were some of your? Did you have any gay filmmakers you liked when you started back in the day?
Any gay filmmakers that I liked?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I love John Waters.
Of course, come on. We love John Waters. Love John Waters. My mother's used to be a John Waters. My mother was the one who was like, "Blink Flamingos, you gotta watch this." I mean, like, you gotta watch this. I'm like, Mom, he's the next hippie, so I think that's why she likes his stuff. But I mean, he's brilliant.
Yeah. So years ago, I went when I was living in New York. I went to meet Mink Stoll. She was so kind as to invite me into her apartment, which was really great. So we spent an afternoon together talking. And the only reason why she was willing to talk to me was because I was a filmmaker and I was talking to her about the possibility of casting her.
Oh yeah, there you go. She's
Right,
smart.
Smart. Otherwise, just as a fan, she wouldn't have let me.
She would have. Yeah.
Right. Talk.
That's very cool. Very cool.
It was interesting. What she was saying was, though, she's upset because the only roles that she's offered are like these campy, kind of
Poor
trashy parts, and she's like, "I'm not going to do that anymore." And in my mind, I'm thinking, then what's the point of casting Mink Stoll? I can get
you're
anybody.
good at it, that. So, like, I mean,
that's what people expect, and but I never said that. I didn't say that.
Good for you. No, good for you.
Well, anyway, so let's see, other gay filmmakers. Well, I mean, at that point, the out gay filmmakers were making movies that I just hated.
And I get it.
And even Brokeback Mountain. When Brokeback Mountain came out, you probably remember this. The producer said, "This is not a gay film.
Yeah, I remember that.
This is a chick flick." And if you look at their marketing, the men are not facing each other; they're facing away from each other, and and all of that stuff. And I'm like, so the gay community that I was in and surrounded by, people were like, the gays were saying, "Hollywood finally embraces us," and I'm like, no, it doesn't. No. This is not about us. This is a chick flick. The women go, and maybe they'll drag their boyfriends.
Right.
I
agree with that. Yeah, I know it's tough. I know it sucks. I don't want to be shady to gay filmmakers. It's like, but it's just so tough. Back then, there were a lot that I mean, as a black gay, I didn't see that. I wasn't seeing anything represented. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's another set of white kids doing something. Oh, another set of. I mean, it was just like there was nothing, and I wasn't HRE positive or anything. So it was like, a lot of things was like, well, that's not my story either. Now, I mean, Long Time Companion, I did enjoy it on some level. I have I have mixed feelings about it, which I know you too. I have mixed feelings about it. But I mean, there was some good acting in some good acting.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm not dissing the quality of the movies. I'm dissing the stories.
Yeah. So for me, and then we had the Crying Game that came out, and that was like atrocious. But then, for me, I mean, Paris is Burning, of course, changed my life. That was the movie that documentary changed my life. I saw actually brown people talking about a subset of culture that I heard of course, and knew about, but I never saw it on a big screen and got big attention. But then that went away, and it was like back to the way we were, back to these, Edge of 17, and this and all these movies. Was like, they're all about the same. I mean, every once in a while, I think it wasn't until Queer as Folk, the British version, came out. I was like, ooh, what's this?
Yeah,
TV series, and that was real, and it was really edgy. And it was good. And it had some things I'd never seen before, and it seemed a little more honest than some of the stuff that you're seeing out there. It was tough. It's tough to see.
Yeah, and then the Americans commercialized it.
And I'm from Pittsburgh, so I'm like, Liberty Avenue does not look like that. It's not like that at all. I'm like.
So I remember I saw Pedro Almodovar's movie Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Yeah, he's good.
I think when I was in my mid-20s. I saw it in the theater when it came out. Yeah. And so that was the first time I had seen any of Almodovar's films. And I mean, I was totally entranced. I loved it. I got the DVD right here. I watched it,
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that I thought about that film, and Americans embraced it, and they really liked it. But I was like, if this had been made in English, it would have been so campy.
Yes.
So campy.
Yes.
But because it's in another language, camp is totally accepted. And I was going, my movies are like Pedro's movies. They're this degree of camp in some ways. And I'm like, if I made these movies in German, I wouldn't have some of the criticisms I get,
Probably right. No, you're right. No, there's something to that. There's truth to that. I'm sure there is. Yeah. I saw a film, Apartment Zero, years ago, that time period. Yeah. And I loved it actually because it was, Hart Bachner was this guy who was like, he was everything to everybody in this building. And I was always trying to find things that were unique. And I think that's why I came across your films. I was always trying to find something that was different. I was like, I don't care if there's straight folks in the film. I don't care if there's this. I want to see something different that has like where you throw in maybe a gay sex scene here and there, and it makes sense. But also just like, I mean, and your films did that for me. That's why I was like, there's something in there that's just not just the same 5 tropes you get in every film. You know what they are, Paul. You know, Paul. You know what I'm talking about. It's like the same 4 or 5 things show up in every film.
I know. I was talking to another filmmaker yesterday, and he's up here in Portland. He's made a documentary film. It's about queer people who've climbed to the top of Mount Hood, and he's working on his first feature narrative film, right? And he wants to make queer stories. And so we were talking about this and talking about financing and budgets and, and all this stuff and so forth. And he wants to have a big budget and, for this project. And I'm like, well, you got to make your money back. You've got to be able to recoup these funds. Otherwise, you're going to burn your investors and they're not going to be too happy with you. And he was like, well, I've looked at your films and, I don't understand why you don't make more marketable movies, is what he says to me.
How funny.
And I'm like, well, I would really rather tell stories that are important to me, that I think resonate with some people, than make a movie for the purpose of me becoming famous. And I've listened to these other panels about young filmmakers coming out of film school, and it's like they're having to make that decision early on in their careers. Am I going to make a movie really for the purpose of me getting hired for other jobs? Or am I making movies because I want to tell stories? So I've chosen this path of telling stories, and it means subsequently, I'm not embraced by the studio system. I'm not part of the inner workings, right?
The machine. Yeah. But at least it's because, like I said, your films are always very interesting, and each of your films really takes you on a journey, which a good movie should do, but you really do some doozies. In this latest film,
kind of threw you for a loop there, didn't it?
I'm from beginning to end. I was like, okay, and then this happens, and then this person introduced, and then this happened. I'm like, because I don't want to I'm going to ask you to give a synopsis of the film, but I don't want to give away I want people to watch this film, and I don't want anybody to see this, but I want you to kind of first give a synopsis of what the film is. In your words.
Sure. So up here in the Pacific Northwest, we're expecting a 9.0 earthquake, which is going to be completely devastating. And there will be a tsunami on the coast. And I wanted to tell the story of someone who's a city dweller, an urbanite, liberal, bleeding heart, progressive thinking, white man. And I wanted to submerge him in the culture of rural Oregon, which is not just politically conservative, but also completely and totally different from the world that I grew up in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I created the foundation of there's this big tsunami and an earthquake, and therefore he's got to get back home to the Bay Area where he lives with his husband and his adopted child. And the only way to get back really is to walk, because
it's great. I was like, how is he going to get back home, first of all? And how you have it in boats. I mean, all these, I'm just like, it's crazy. This movie is crazy in a good way.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy in a good way.
So the way that the movie came about is, so I've been living up here in Oregon now for 8 years. I moved here from New York City. I bought a cabin in the woods because I was taking care of an older man who I've been taking care of.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. I've been taking care of him since 2006, providing for him. And we're not lovers. We were initially when we met, but that
happens.
Right.
Paul, that happens.
And we recognized pretty early on that we were not really meant to be lovers. All right. So anyway, so he was a person who had many reasons why he was not employable. And so I was providing for him. And while I was living in New York, I bought this house for him to live here in Oregon because he was living in my house in Texas. He didn't want to stay in Texas. I can understand that. So he wanted to live up here. Oregon is great. It provides lots and lots of social services. So, literally the day he arrived here, he was on food stamps and he had health care. The first day. And this was great. This was a great environment for him to be in. I came back to check on him after about 9 months, and he wasn't doing well on his own. I stayed for the summer trying to get things better arranged for him. And by the end of the summer, I realized that I wouldn't be able to leave him on his own. And I couldn't continue to afford to support him here and live in New York on my own. So Anyway, I wound up in Oregon. I continued making feature films, and I was doing video production work as well, but I'm in a tiny town. I'm an hour away from any urban center at all. The closest one was the next largest city in Oregon, which is still pretty small, and they are about 8 years behind the rest of the world. So explaining, video promotional work for websites and all this, like, flump. So anyway, I finally gave that up, and I got a job. I got a job in this tiny little town, and it was like ripping my heart out to eat humble pie and to go take
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, the job was medical transport, which I didn't even know existed until that point. But what medical transport is, we were picking up people from their homes and taking them to the doctor's appointments or to the drug treatment clinic or to the shrink or to the hospital for surgery or whatever. And these are all people who are on Medicaid or Medicare or very financially challenged. And so as the driver, they didn't know anything about me. And oftentimes I was on the van with these folks for 2 or 2.5 hours, driving them one way and then driving them back, traveling long distances to take them where they need to go. So they would talk. And I was listening to all of this, and it blew my mind, because as a bleeding heart, liberal, progressive thinking person, I've always had this attitude of, if we just supply enough services, if we just provide enough material goods for people who are at the bottom end of our economic society, it will raise the boat for everybody and they will prosper and do better. Right? That's the belief. That a lot of us middle class, what used to be called middle class liberals, have, And I discovered that no, it doesn't matter how much money you throw at them. Their culture, their society, their belief systems are going to keep them exactly locked into the world that they're in.
Yep.
And it's a world where they will take everything that is given to them, and they will vote for the person who wants to take all those things away from them. Because they deserve to get what they're getting, but nobody else does. Exactly. And all those other people are freeloaders. Mm-hmm. So they shouldn't have this, right? And so they'll make those choices. And quite frankly, that is how we have the president that we have today. So anyway, I worked that job for 1.5 years. Joe is wonderfully being taken care of by his family back in Arkansas now. I sold the house. I moved to Portland. And it's great. I'm thrilled to death. I'm finally able to fully go back to being a full-time filmmaker and all this good stuff. I don't have to, I'm not overly stretched.
We need you. Yes.
Right, and I've got a lot to do. But I mean, the thing of it was that listening to all these people, I realized, if they knew who I was, if they knew that I was this urbanite liberal guy, they would never have told me any of the things they were telling me. And the stories that are being related in Crossing Shaky Ground I told all of these stories to the actors playing those characters, saying, this is who this person is. These things really happened. She really had 9 children and complains about immigrants coming in to get services and benefits because they come in and have so many children. Right? And it just went on and on and on with all of these cultural beliefs in a world that we just never, ever are exposed to. And it's funny because somebody else saw the movie this week who is also white, middle-class raised guy. And his response to the movie was that he hated it. He hated seeing all of the characters and the situations that were being shoved in his face about all of these people who he didn't feel any sympathy toward at all, right? And and I read that at first, and I was going, oh God, a terrible review, oh God. And then I was like, wait a minute.
No, you did.
That is the point of this movie. That's exactly why I made this.
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't feel sorry for any of these motherfuckers. I didn't care about it. I just cussed. Some of these motherfuckers. I didn't feel sorry for half of them. I didn't feel sorry for them. I was like,
yeah.
the dialogue, like I said, it takes you through. Like seriously, you hear something like, I mean, again, for me, I'm not surprised by hearing this stuff. See, I'm coming to it, from my angle. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. I know this person. I've seen that before. So for me, it's just like he's encountering these people, the lead character, and I'm just like, well, I'm not surprised. I'm okay. That sounds about right. Okay, it's like I shook my head a lot as I was sitting here on my computer watching it. I was like, that's what I did a lot of when I watched it. Meanwhile, I'm rooting for him to get to where he needs to go. but that becomes secondary. Literally, once you get into this film, you almost forget about all that. It's like now you're just like dealing with how's he gonna deal with all these people? How are you gonna deal with these people?
Right, that's right.
This is kind of crazy. Each person he encounters, and you're just like, wow, that is okay. That's okay. That's America. Got it.
Yeah, right. And there's a character in there who is hooked on crystal meth, and he has gone to methadone clinics for treatment. He's tried that, and so I mean, a lot of the people that I was transporting were going to the methadone clinic. A lot of them. And it was interesting because most of the drivers, and there's a whole network of drivers, did not want to transport people going to the methadone clinic because they often were emotionally unstable.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, but didn't you strap them down or anything? No. I mean, do you do anything?
No. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Okay.
At all. And these are human beings. They have free will. If they want out of the van, they can get out of the van. I mean, they're not certainly under any arrest or anything like that. Wow. However, I would hear all of these people going to the methadone clinic, and I would hear them talking about the methadone clinic and how they feel like the methadone clinic is really just trying to keep them hooked on methadone. Hardly anyone ever gets weaned off the methadone. And it's this whole structure where, yes, they want to keep them hooked on the methadone to keep them controlled.
Okay.
Because if they're on the methadone, they're going to have to show up 6 days a week, every day, 6 days a week. They have 1 day off that they can take the methadone with them, right?
Right.
Presumably, they won't start doing thieving, breaking in, burglary to steal,
right,
to get their fix, right?
Yeah.
And the insurance companies are paying for all this methadone, right? So the police want them there. The methadone clinics want them there. The whole system is built toward keeping these people hooked on methadone.
That's crazy.
Right. So I brought up some of that in the film. The guy who's got the addiction is talking about this, right? And I'm going, and I never would have seen this, never in a million years would have seen this or imagined this if I hadn't had these encounters with people telling me about this.
I didn't know it. I didn't know that. You tell me this is based on a real thing. I had no idea.
Oh yeah. And not only that, but so when I was first interviewing the actors, because I asked specific actors to play specific parts, and all of these actors, none of these actors are from this cultural background. They are all from urban, middle class kind of cultures, right? And so I had an actress say to me, "No, I don't think I could play this kind of person. Nobody would believe me that I would look like someone who would do that." She says this to me.
So yeah, maybe we can make it work.
No, I know, but I'm like, no, that's the point. Is major media has stigmatized people so that we think they all look like, street ruffians. They look like they're all missing their teeth, like they're, dirty, clean, they're not wearing nice clothes. We think that that's what they look like, but they don't. They look like you and I. When they open their mouth, that's when you see something's different going on.
You know what's so funny? When I saw Blue Jasmine, with Cate Blanchett, which she deserved her Oscar, I mean, hands down. I love when you say that because it showed this person who, on the outward, looked like a regular person, and we saw how she got down to that the madness and the scent of madness. But you see this chick sitting on a bench and it's dressed nicely, kind of, but a little disheveled. It's not the crack addict that's like on the corner. It's not somebody with no clothes on sitting on a bench. It's like this is somebody who could look like your aunt or your sister or your cousin who has some mental stuff that goes on. Like you said that it's not that we gotta get rid of that stigmatism of this. Of it has to look a certain way would be a certain way.
Right, and one of the characters in the film is what you and I would normally call a stripper.
Yeah.
She never calls herself a stripper. She's a dancer. And the only way that I knew this was because I transported people who were dancers. And after talking to them for a while, I realized, oh, you work in strip clubs. Oh, now I get it, right? But it's this mindset that we have put on all these other people about what they must be like that's mistaken. And instead, I'm trying to show what people really are like. And, you know, the end result is we're not going to change them. It's really pretty arrogant of us to think that we can. Really.
Well, you know, your title has so many different meanings. Like, once again.
Yeah.
I like that. So watching the film, like, oh, okay. So first you're thinking, oh, it's earthquake, and no, that's not it. The shaky ground is everybody. Everybody's on shaky. We're all
yeah.
That's the ground, folks. It's the relationships, the thought processes. It's everything. We're all on shaky ground, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
At any given time, like we literally are. I mean, and today's society, especially, we're on shaky ground in so many different areas. So I like the double meaning or the triple meaning or quadruple meaning of the title. I mean, once again, you did it again. It's like this peeling, like an onion, peeling the layers down. It's like, okay, it's like this film is not exactly. So to answer your question from earlier, it was what I expected kind of from a Paul Bright film, but then you're right, it wasn't what I expected from a Paul Bright film. It was. I guess it could be both. It was what I expected, and it wasn't what I expected. Yeah. It was both.
There was one thing that I did differently with this film that I've never done before. Normally my films are very scripted, completely scripted. There's some improv, but very rarely when there's improv. So this film was completely, entirely improv. All of the actors were improvising.
Did you tell me that? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what I did for all of the actors was I gave them profiles about who their character was. I gave them lots of backstories about who their characters were. I gave each of them a couple of secrets that only that actor knew about that secret.
Okay, good, okay.
So, and then I'd tell them, look, this is a road movie. So things could change based on what you guys do in these scenes. It could change the direction that we're heading. We may wind up going somewhere else completely different.
Exciting. Okay.
So I didn't tell them, I wasn't like, okay, here's the plot. We go A, then we go here, and then we go here. Because I had that in my mind about where I wanted it to go, but I wanted to keep it open for them to figure it out. And the reason why the structure worked as a road movie, of our lead character needed a direction to go to. So that's what kept us moving forward as that was the through line to keep it going this way.
Yeah.
And then there were specific things that I gave the characters about specific events that happened to them. There is one scene in the film where the leading female explains how her last husband died. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
And I had told her this. I mean, I had set this up in her, so she had to figure out in her mind how to make that work logistically. How could that have been possible for that to write,
Yes.
And the first time that she reveals it in the film, when I was editing that movie, man, I would stop because I was just laughing so hysterically at just the way she says how he died. And I mean, I would just have to take a 10-minute break, and I was rolling on the floor, literally. I'm not kidding you, James, because it was so damn funny to me.
It was just one of your films.
To have her saying it, right? Right, yeah.
Like yes.
So anyway, so I had set up all the pieces. The way that the actors filled them was the work of the actors, which is why in the film, the actors are credited with writing it. So I give myself the credit of the story, and I credit all the actors as writing it.
Very cool. So, what also about this film is it feels intrusive. I feel like the way you shoot it, I feel like I'm there, which a good road film, I guess, would be that way. It felt like I was standing behind a character sometimes or next to a character. So when things were revealed to me, or they came across somebody, I feel like I was right there with them. It felt very intrusive, which in a good way. I mean, in a good way, it felt very intrusive. Like I was like, should I be watching this? Like, should I be here? Wait, I'll go back in another room. You can continue the scene. I'll be in the other room. Like it felt like
It's like TMI, too much information.
yeah, exactly. It felt really, and I love that. I mean, it makes it where it's kind of like hard to watch, but you can't stop watching. Like it's both things. You're just like, well, okay, you know. But it felt very. Was that one of the goals of making this film? Make it feel like you were there on the road with him.
Yeah, I mean, it really and truly was that I think you probably know my theme in filmmaking is I hate hypocrisy. And so I lampoon hypocrisy in just about everything.
Yeah, we do.
And so I really, really wanted to do the best I possibly could to show these characters for the way that they think and believe and live their lives with their mindsets. And I literally wanted that to be in your face. In the face of our urbanite, city-dwelling, bleeding-heart liberal progressive,
yes,
who is now encountering something he cannot handle at all.
Which is good in life sometimes, to be confronted with stuff, I think.
Yeah, well, so that's what this movie is out to do.
I know. And well, sometimes we live in our bubbles. And I remember I was in San Francisco for 16 years. That was a bubble. There were some things there that once I would leave the bubble to go somewhere else in the country or in the world, like, oh, that's why it's not like that everywhere else. Like there were some things that were very comfortable in Castro and San Francisco. I mean, it's just some things that just were, if you're a certain type of person, I see why folks never leave it. Because they're just like, everything is like so comfortable. Once you go outside of that to Oakland, if you say that, or go to Sacramento or something, you're like, oh, this is not like the same. Oh, it's a little different here. You go to Virginia or somewhere like, and I like to see people sometimes they have to be confronted with things because it helps you grow, and maybe it helps you also grow and define what you really believe in some ways too. This film kind of does that also. It kind of defines what do you really believe. Like when you see this person, do you have compassion for this person? Do you not have compassion for this person? You have the 9 kids and all this stuff, but do you have compassion for them? Or do you think they're really shitting the system? Or they're really doing it? Like what do you like? You're confronted with all these ideas about yourself.
Right, exactly. And it was interesting because this person who reviewed the film, the review that I read yesterday, he was like, all of these characters were completely unsympathetic. And I read this and I was like, this is what you're being asked. You're being asked to be empathetic toward all of these people. And if you can't, then you need to acknowledge that and realize all you're really doing is saying you should live your life like this.
You got it. No, seriously, that's right. You're almost kind of doing the same thing that people want to do to you, in a sense. Yep. By saying, you should live your life this way, Paul. You should be that. I don't like the way you're doing it, so you should be this way. Well, is that really true for everything and everybody? Are we going to be the perpetrators ourselves?
Right. That's right. Right. Now, I understand, I was shooting this movie and I was working on the film and I was going, oh my God, all my liberal friends are just going to hate me. They are just going to hate me with this film. They're going to, they're going to hate the movie. They're going to think that I've got some kind of ulterior motive. I was going, people are going to watch this movie and think that I'm really touting all of these beliefs. Like I'm endorsing all of these beliefs.
Okay.
Right. And I was going, which I do not,
I know
endorse the beliefs of these characters. All of these things to me were just like, oh God, how painful, how horribly painful.
They want to slap everybody. They want to start slapping.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right. So, and I'm not going to give away the ending of the film, but I intentionally ended the film the way that I did, and I hope my message was that ultimately our hero realized what he had to do, which was walk away.
Okay, yes. Okay, I can see that. Okay, yeah.
Maybe you got something else from it. I don't know.
Sorry, I don't want to give it away, but I felt the ending. I was a little dissatisfied. I will say that, but I think I was meant to feel that way on some level. Mm-hmm. I think I didn't think it's anything bad. I didn't think it's like dissatisfied. Like, oh my God, this movie sucks. It wasn't that. I love the film. But I was just a little dissatisfied at how you ended it. And I was like...
Because there was part of you wanting him to achieve something, right?
Yes.
Right.
I think that's what it is. because you set it up as this thing for, okay, we're gonna get here.
Right.
And that's where we're supposed to get. But in life, as we know,
That's exactly right.
time, it doesn't always
Right.
go that way, right?
Right. And that was exactly part of the whole point too. It's like there's not a happy ending here.
Right.
It's not like he can suddenly slip back into San
Right.
Francisco.
Right. He's been changed.
Everything is now changed. That's right.
Changed. He's been changed.
He has been radically changed. Yeah.
God bless America. so here comes like this. Yes, that's what it, and that's what it is. And now I'm talking to you about. I'm like, yeah, that's probably why I felt that way. I mean, I did because I was set up to kind of believe that's the path he's supposed to. That way we're supposed to get there then, and then everybody's good, and we're all good, and that was an experience, and he can tell us, the grandkids one day, oh my God, but that's not it. That wasn't it.
Yeah.
That wasn't it.
So this is why I'm telling you, James. I made this movie realizing people are gonna hate this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love the movie. I love the movie. I love the movie. And I'm so proud of you.
And all of my other movies, by the way, have some kind of somewhat uplifting ending. Even if it's, if it's challenging or questioning, there's still hope, right?
Yes. You're sure. You're right. No, you're right. There is.
And then there's this movie. I'm editing another movie. So, I mean, the next movie that I'm editing is very hopeful and joyful, and has a great ending, right?
We go back to normal. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you. So, with this film, what are the next steps? So, people are watching this interview, and they're like, "Oh my God, I want to see it." And also, like, what's the next steps for this film?
Right. So the best thing to do at this point is, if they want to see it, they can reach out to me by email, or they can go to the website. And I will.
What it is right now? Tell me what your email and website is.
It's paul@paulbrightfilms.com. Or the website is paulbrightfilms.com. There's a website for the movie. It's crosssingshakyground.com. So the name of the movie is crosssingshakyground.com.
I'll put all this stuff in the bio, but I want to say it. So you say it.
So the next thing is, because I don't have a distribution deal in place yet, so I don't know when it will release yet. I can absolutely positively guarantee you it will wind up on Amazon Prime at some point this fall. But I don't know if it will wind up somewhere else before then. Because the whole pandemic and the way that everybody is doing things, everything is in chaos. Yeah. What I did hear at Cannes is that there's going to be this huge vacuum coming up in the mid-fall all the way into middle of next year, because there won't be content, because all this content creation stopped in March.
Yeah, that's right.
So they're going to be desperately looking for material that's finished, which this film is.
Yeah, it's finished.
And I have another film right behind it that will be finished in another month and a half. And so we'll just kind of see how things go as we go into September. But if they reach out to me, if people are willing to reach out to me, that would be really wonderful. I'm a friendly, happy guy.
Yes.
I'm delighted to hear from people. I like talking to people. And I will let them know what's happening with the progress of the film.
Yeah, I just forgot about that. Since March 17th, almost everything has stopped. And we're all like, I mean, there are no scopes on the air. We're all sitting going, okay, well, at some point, we're going to run out of everything. And there's going to be a big dearth of product. That's going to be new product that's going to be filming. So they're going to be looking for everybody else. Like, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? What's going on? What do you have finished? It's just going to be an interesting time. It's going to be a very interesting time, I think. You're right.
Yes, it will. And so, we'll see if this opens it up for indie filmmakers who wouldn't have gotten a voice otherwise. I don't know. We'll find out.
Paul Bright, talk to you forever. Thank you so much. This was
James. It is so great to see you, man. You're a hoot.
Yeah, no, you're hilarious. And I again, I'm a fan of your work, and everybody, check out Paul Bright. So again, it's go to crosssingshakyground.com, paul@paulbright.com. Go ahead. I'll put him in the link description so you can actually follow him. He's online too. I reached out to him years ago, and he was friendly. He said hi, and we started talking. So he's a friendly guy. He's out there just trying to make some film. That's all, kids. Make a little film here and there. Some content.
Yeah, well, I thought about my mission in life, and my mission in life is to tell stories. So here I am. I'm a storyteller, and I'm having a great time doing it.
Stories. And I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me at James Lott Jr. everywhere. I really am everywhere. And you can follow this show on JLJ Media on YouTube, or you can follow us everywhere on every streaming service under In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. Everyone, please stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands, and take care.